My name is Catherine Chapman, and for my virtual world tour project, I will be going to Australia. So I traveled at 6 in the morning, leaving from Newark Airport, EWR, and since this was an overnight flight, I stayed at the LAX or Los Angeles airport for quite some time and arrived at Sydney Airport in Sydney, Australia at 6:55 a.m. So this is my hotel. I arrived at after arriving at the airport at 6:55 in the morning. I decided to book myself a very nice hotel, and this was the nearest hotel, and it was very cheap, only $23, and this is the room that I stayed in. So from Sydney Airport to my hotel, I took a shuttle bus because there was a shuttle bus that went from the airport to my hotel. So in taking the shuttle bus ready to go, I went 17.2 kilometers, which is 10.7 miles. And with this, I spent over $16.84, which is USD, which converts over to $22 in Australian dollars. So this is the first place where I went. It's called the Edmedian Gun. It's in Hyde Park. And I really admire this monument. This is a war monument that occurred after the battle between the SMS Edmedian and the HMS Sydney, which were both ships. So, this monument coincides and corresponds with the theme of human geography, which describes human groups and their activities. So according to the site City of Sydney, quote, "The Edmedian Gun is a historical monument that was commissioned by the Council of the City of Sydney on August 20th, 1917. This is a 4-inch gun that was recovered from the German ship SMS Edmedian, hence the name the Edmedian Gun. In the battle, as a result, the fatalities were as follows. 4 Australians died, while 16 were wounded, and more than 200 German crew members lost their lives." Now, on the side, and on the back of the gun, the names of all of those who were on board the SMS Edmedian are listed, and those Australians who died, the 4 Australians that died, and the 16 that were wounded, are listed on the side of the monument. And this was 2.3 kilometers, which is 1.4 miles that I traveled in total from the hotel over to Hyde Park. My second place that I went to was the Royal Botanic Gardens, and when I went to the Royal Botanic Gardens, I came across this really significant painting. And this is a Native American indigenous painting, Wugan Muliga, which translates in English as Farm Cove. And as you may not be able to tell, these are carvings of Native American tribes, in which there are still a lot of indigenous clans that live in Australia today. So this follows the theme of cultural landscape and settlement. On the side, I have a picture of a clan and a language group in which the artist Barbara L. Croft, who was a part of the Gurindji people, she is one of the Gurindji people, and she is a part of the Gurindji nation. This pays acknowledgement to the indigenous people's history, those that live in Australia. And this also pays homage to the Yura, who are the original clan group of the site. On the side of the screen, I have a picture of one of the many clan groups in their languages, in which Barbara Croft carved in red into the sidewalk, into the pavement. And in total, I traveled 1.3 miles, which is 22.2 kilometers from my previous location at Ed Median Gun in Hyde Park. My third location where I went is right next to the hotel where I'm staying. It's actually built, the hotel itself is built on top of, or well, I should say alongside, the Big Dig Archaeology Education Center. This theme, this area, this place goes with this theme of earth science tradition. So according to the Education Center website, the Big Dig site is an area of land that contains archaeological remains from the late 18th century at the time of Australia's first European settlement. Now, hence the name The Rocks. The Rocks were home to the convicts that arrived within the First Fleet in 1778. So going back to my picture, beneath the Archaeology Education Center, the rocks are right here, what was built. And this area was known as Talawahada by the Gadgal people of the area of the Eora Nation. And since I walked, by foot I traveled 19 miles. The next place where I went is Sydney Harbour Bridge. Now this place is very infamous. You could go by ferry, you could go by car. Some people even decide to climb the Sydney Harbour Bridge to get a very nice view. I don't know why, but they just do. Since I'm afraid of heights, I decided that I would not be climbing the bridge. This goes along with the theme of physical geography. So, according to Sydney.com, Sydney Harbour Bridge is one of the largest steel bridges in the world, and the arc itself spans over 503 meters. Another cool fact is that the iconic bridge took over 8 years to build using 53,000 tons of steel and 6 million hand-driven rivets. The Palion granite, which is the material that was made in making and building the Sydney Harbour Bridge, it was quarried near Moorea on the NSW South Coast. The father of the bridge is J.J.C. Bradfield, who was an engineer. I traveled 1.7 kilometers, which is 10.5 total miles that I traveled by car, not by ferry. My last place where I went is called the Paddington War Memorial. And this is a very nice picture that I got during the daytime. This memorial, war memorial, follows with the theme of political geography. As the City of Sydney website states, the structure of the memorial is reminiscent of the monuments from the 1920s and 30s, as it's shown to appeal to an art decorative style that is typical of that time period. Another fact is that the names of those who served in the First World War are engraved in the stone. And this memorial corresponds with the theme of political geography because the memorial itself serves as a reminder of the lives that were lost in the First World War. So, 7.6 kilometers, and the total miles that I traveled is 4.7. And in returning home from Sydney to Bloomfield, it was an overnight trip, so I left at 10:30 in the morning, and I returned to Newark Airport at 5:08 p.m. in the evening, taking the same flight with United Airlines. And this is my bibliography. The Big Dig Arcology Education Center, the Sydney Harbour Hotel, Farm Cove, the Paddington War Memorial, as well as Sydney Harbour Bridge. All of these sites are sites coming from Australia and Sydney themselves. Thank you so much for listening to my virtual tour project presentation. My name is Catherine Chapman from Professor Frankie Rivera's History 106 class.